everyone, I'm Danielle from Cageless Readings. So today's pick a card. I'm looking at red flags. So what is this gonna all involve, you may wonder? We're gonna be looking at what toxic cycles do you have a tendency to fall in? What are some early signs to watch out for before you burn out or fall completely into that old cycle? And we're also going to look at clarity on what's going on within you that you keep calling in this energy pattern or habit, or whatever you'd like to call it. And yeah, so I just used 3 different decks today. I used the Divine Feminine Oracle cards, which is what you see on top. I pulled some archetype cards, and I also used the Power of Surrender cards because I really like them to see what's coming up emotionally within us. So that being said, as the new usual seems to be, I'm just going to play the crystal pyramid to clear the energy and ground you all before we get into this card reading. Okay, now that you are all nice, grounded, connected with your intuition, let's look at your options for the piles today. So we have for pile 1, Saraswati. It says the goddess of self-knowledge, and she will be our pile 1 option. Pile 2 is, all right, we got this, Enheduanna. Enheduanna. Something of such. Enheduanna. And she says the High Priestess. I am one with my soul. For pile 2. And pile 3, we have Lilith, the first woman. I am the voice of my body and soul. Pile 3. All right, I'll give you a few extra seconds here in case you haven't decided right away, and then I'll see you in your card readings. Hello, pile 1. So you chose Saraswati, the goddess of self-knowledge. The essence of who I am flows effortlessly into everything I create. So that's interesting. That came forward for clarity on what what is calling this in? So I'm kind of looking at these cards that come up as what's what you're needing more of to not attract in this energy any longer, or this pattern or cycle. So here we have Bridget, the goddess of the eternal flame. I am an eternal flame, and each day my light grows brighter. Fatima, the mother of imams. It says, love is my lineage and gratitude is my religion. And last we have Joan. Oh, sorry, actually you have two more. You have Joan of Arc, the warrior of light. I have steel light faith in myself. The angels armor me with conviction. And we have Diana, queen of the wilderness. The language of natural world is a frequency of love that is my mother tongue. So that's what to call in more of. Okay. And then signs for what emotions might be signs for you that you're starting to go into this pattern or this cycle. So it says surrender the idea that you can fix someone, surrender to complete healing, surrender procrastination, surrender your desire to control people, surrender unhealthy relationships, and surrender the drama. Okay, can we fit them all? Maybe. I like this. And then some archetypes. This was for what cycles you're actually falling into. So we have God, we have companion, we have artist, we have bully, and we have hermit. Hey, Toby. These are kind of interesting energies. Hi, Topes. Hi, bud. How are you? Are you doing okay? Yeah. Boom. Okay, perfect. So I might just take a second to tune into what's going on here. Okay, so I think what I'm starting to see here, and I think what was confusing me a little bit about these cards is they're like showing me some of your habits you get into, and then some of the the other pattern, like the person you keep drawing in tendencies and habits. So it's like very confusing because I'm like, what? How can you be doing this but that? Those are opposite energies. And I was like, oh, it's because some of them are your energy and some of them is their energy. So actually, I almost want to put this over here because these two, I think, is the energy pattern you go into or the cycle pattern you go into, and this is the pattern of the other person. Actually, this one's kind of in between you. It's kind of two things going on here. Okay, so in short, what I'm seeing here is as the cycle is I see that you might be a little more, how do I just say this? I'm trying to be polite. I think that your patterning is that you go into codependent relationships. So what would that look like if you're like, what do you mean I'm codependent? What does that even mean? What are you trying to tell me here? I'm seeing like it's almost like if you've been known to have really good friends, like best friends. I don't mean like a bunch. Like there's just usually one person that you get really, really hooked on for a while. And they're like your best friend. You do everything together. You tell them about everything you do. You call them, you text them when like a love interest messages you, or when something happens at work, you like tell them right away. It's like you almost stop using yourself as your own internal authority, and you go to this outside person, this best friend, and you're like, this is what happened. This is what went down. What do I do? What do you think about this? What's your opinion? All those like questions where you don't really realize it, but instead of you making your own initial judgments and trusting your own intuitive feelings. You go immediately without even like reflecting or asking yourself how you feel about it, and you go into almost like a panic or whatever emotion comes up, and you ask this best friend. So what is wrong with that? I just feel like there's a lack of independence and of knowing yourself and making like knowing that these decisions are coming from you. And also the patterning for you is the person that you're attracting in is someone who is a little bit, I don't know, how would I put it? They're not actually codependent, I don't believe. It seems like they like people who are codependent so that they can sort of have someone to hang on to, and maybe some people would say manipulate. So it's almost like they do care a lot about you to the point where they don't want to let you go or let you leave them. So when I see these other energies coming through, it's almost like I see that you see the best in them, even though you've seen some shadow aspects, seen some things that maybe aren't that great, maybe some red flags. I think this is literally saying you start to see some red flags, but you just choose to see the best in them, and you really like just kind of love these people, and you just love having someone who is there for you and you can talk to all the time. And it just kind of passes this like healthy line of good friends and asking them what they think all the time. Does that make sense? It's almost like, it's funny, I feel like it's hard to say this sometimes to people who are falling into this habit, because it's like you almost don't realize all the times you're asking and not discerning for yourself. That's really what it is. You're going outside yourself for someone else's opinions and then making your judgment or an opinion about it. So yeah. So then on the other side, what I see the people you're kind of drawing in is they would be people who sometimes have narcissistic tendencies. And I know I've said that a lot lately on this channel. And I'm really getting that, like, someone who usually is very codependent kind of attracts in narcissistic types. It doesn't mean they're full on narcissists. It maybe just means sometimes they can have tendencies that are a little more in that archetype, we'll say, that personality type. And how I see them kind of going is it almost says, so it's like, conceals deep fears behind verbal or physical abuse. How I actually get this is like they might say a lot of things that undermine you a little bit. So they'll make it feel like they're just sharing like really vulnerable, honest information about you and like letting you in on like something that everyone's saying behind your back. But actually, it's just like a form of manipulation. And like they said, they're very creative here. So it's this artist like using talent as an excuse to mistreat others and posing as a starving artist to elicit pity. So it's really just saying posing as someone who understands your hardships, understands what you're going through, but then is actually kind of also abusing you, like also bullying you and like making your confidence kind of get smaller and lower, and they're not actually ever really making you feel that much better. And I do really feel like they'd be offering you like tidbits of compliments, but they're also kind of not compliments at the same time. So they'd be like, oh, you're so beautiful, but I bet you a lot of people don't like you because you're so beautiful. And you're kind of like, is that a compliment? Or is that not a compliment? Like, and it's almost like they're always like kind of putting these other like beliefs in your mind. But I feel like for you specifically, you do attract in a lot of people who are like, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people are saying this. I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard a lot of people think this about you or see this in you. Or I know people are thinking like there's almost like, it's almost like they're saying like, I have information that you need that you don't have, that people aren't being honest with you. That is one of the red flags to look out for this pile. When you're like, there's actually a lot of red flags. There's one is in the fact that you feel like you need to message them to get their opinion or to double check that you're not gonna give the wrong impression to someone. Like if as soon as you find yourself like not feeling confident enough or firm enough in yourself that you need this other person all the time, that's a red flag for yourself. The issue is that kind of needs to be solved within you and not within them, because this is this is almost like a fear of making the wrong decision. This is like the fear of not being able to control people's perception or how they're going to react to a message. That's kind of within you that needs to be healed and addressed. However, this kind of utilizing your insecurities, utilizing your areas of vulnerability, and kind of like faking or feigning at being honest and helping you out, but really kind of just putting you down is definitely a them issue, which is where one of the red flags are. Also, another thing they're saying a red flag is if someone is saying all the time, like, this person did this to me, this person, like, if anything sounds like they're being victimized again and again, and there's no accountability on their end. And I mean, how do you know the difference here? Okay, so I'm thinking in a situation where if they've said this whole story about how awful people are, and then at the end they're like, well, I guess I need to ask myself if how am I attracting this in? If that's like, if they're just saying that one thing at the end, I wouldn't even, it's just, there's still a big red flag there. You can't like blame, be a victim, say everything's going wrong, and then say one sentence of like a little bit of accountability, because it almost seems like they're almost opening up a door for you to say, oh no, it's not your fault, it's all their faults. But I feel like if you could see the other side of the story, these people have kind of invented or really exaggerated the truth, largely. And they're very creative creative at changing how things are being said. And then the thing over here, another red flag for you, is it says the hermit. So it says you start to withdraw yourself from other people. And a lot of this seems tied to them being like, people, I'm going to tell you the truth, but a lot of people have been saying this about you, and they're going to really make it seem like it's an honest thing and they're letting you in on it. I keep saying that because I can see they've done this again and again, and I don't know if you've even noticed the pattern here. So anyways, you start to withdraw from people. It almost like quite literally says you go into more of a hermit. And you do that because you're like, oh, you're just feeling like you're not, like you're feeling ashamed of yourself. You're feeling guilty that people see you that way. You start wondering if you are any of those things, and you just kind of feel bad and a little bit powerless and a little small. And that's kind of like how this type of person keeps you feeling like you need them. And the funny thing is yes, I know you would just appreciate them without them having to do that, but in their belief system they have to do that to keep you, because they see how great you are, so they're gonna try to bring you down a little bit so that you don't go away. So I hope that's making sense. That's kind of the situation I'm seeing. So it almost seems like if you're like, I keep attracting in really toxic friendships, I think it's specifically friendships, this is what this reading is going to be about. So what emotions are going on within you to warn you further about this, other than like them just kind of letting you in on secrets about what people are saying about you? Or the other thing too, if you notice yourself feeling like you're giving your power away to them a lot, like I said, that is a little bit of your personal tendency, but if they're accepting it, that's kind of a red flag too. Yeah, you do need to fix that within self, but if they're taking it eagerly and telling you what to do and not just saying, hey, well, maybe what would you like to do? Or how, you know, how can I support you with making a decision? Or, and it's not going to involve them getting their opinion to you all the time, because that's something you need to learn. So you don't ever allow in these kind of narcissistic relationships. So anyways, the emotions that are going on within you. So ready right here, it says surrender in healthy relationships. That's just a confirmation that how do we put it? That this is not healthy, it's not really serving you, and it kind of puts you down. But the other thing that's interesting is it's like, it's saying like the unhealthy relationships will be surrounded by drama. It will also be surrounded by it's just tuning into your desire to control people. I really feel like this is talking about just like I can see you on your phones, like trying to be like, well, how do I make sure they don't think this by my answer? How do I make sure that I don't sound too desperate? Or how do I make sure that it's super clear and there's no miscommunication? And it's just like you're writing emails and texts and all these things to people with the help of this person. And it's like, you need to start doing things a little bit on your own. It literally says like, surrender your perception that you can like control the outcome and how people are feeling and all that. And it's almost like if you can surrender that, then you won't be so sucked in by these people's allures of like, I know what people are really thinking about you, and I know how you can get rid of those misjudgments and misbeliefs. But that is so drama based. Like, wow, who focuses on that all the time? It's so funny. I can feel like I'm losing this pile because I'm having such a hard time explaining why this isn't normal or healthy and how to like help you. But I think the big issue here is you needing to learn how to connect in and find your own authority, personal authority, because everything I'm saying once again is kind of just like giving you more opinions and stuff that I'm thinking and saying, and you're like done with that and you just need to like connect with yourself and become stronger in yourself. So part of me is like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about any of these middle sections, and we should just be talking about these goddess cards for this pile, because I can already tell it's just like this is just like almost fulfilling the cycle of like these people you tune in, like you fall into, and these patterns you fall into, and how you can get really like, this person has the answer for me and they know how to help me. But it's like, no, you can do that yourself. You need, yeah, it's like surrendering the drama, surrendering relationships that are unhealthy, so that are putting you down, who are telling you what to do, that give you like the step-by-step of what to do, and that it's the right way or the best way. Surrendering your need to kind of like control the outcome, surrender procrastination. So I even see that like this happens when you start to get thinking too much about, okay, I don't want this person to think this, so I'm gonna like I'm gonna wait till I have time to come up with the perfect explanation, or I feel ready to handle and go into that situation. So it's just almost like, if you're feeling worried about what they're gonna think or what conclusions they're gonna jump to, then there's obviously a sign that this person might not be on your side, right? If you're starting to feel like you're walking on eggshells, if you're having to be very careful, if you have to have the energy to be able to clearly communicate everything, then this person is just maybe not worth it. And then it says surrender to complete healing. Open fully to the loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. So it is interesting, and surrender the idea you can fix someone. So it's almost, there's a few things here. One, you can't change these people or get them to understand your side, because unfortunately they're kind of living in their own little world where they have these rules and belief systems on what they have to do to keep people, and they just have some shadow attributes they're having a hard time seeing and dealing with. And it's almost like you're trying to convince someone who can't hear anything you're saying, which I'm sure you've experienced. And the other thing though is the surrender complete healing is talking about yourself, and a lot of these cards are talking about how to stop calling in these types of relationships, there is a lot of personal work that you have to do. And I shouldn't say that in a way that sounds very foreboding, but it's just saying like there is a self-value piece that's missing for you, that this keeps coming in. And I feel like it's almost like it almost seems like this pile avoids feeling their emotions, going in their bodies and asking what to do. It's like it's a huge block. Even as I'm saying it, I'm like, this pile's not liking this. This is not the answer they want. They just want to know my opinion about something. But you don't want to know my opinion about something, because my opinion is worth shit. Opinion is worth shit all. Your opinion is what matters. And building your your confidence in yourself, your trust in yourself is going to be so big. It's not even like, that's not even quite summing it up. It's like it's something in your life, several people in your life, many people in your life seem to have made you feel like anything you do or say is stupid and wrong and you don't know anything. That is all bullshit. That is all these toxic relationships, the same sort of narcissistic bully energy that is not good. And it's gotten to the point where it's almost like their words are just in your head all the time. And they are telling you, you can't trust yourself. You don't know any better. You're dumb. That is what I keep getting. And that's why you keep asking other people for their opinions, because you're like, well, I'm done. I don't know anything. I never make the right decisions. Though all those cycles, all those circulatory thoughts, those are not yours. There are these abusive people that you've had in your life. Those are not your thoughts. They've just made themselves in there and they haven't been kicked out yet. So why do I keep saying this is all about you? Is because if you start with getting rid of those thoughts, this codependency thing is going to get a lot better, and you will stop finding these people who are just going to abuse, bully you, and tell you you're dumb and you don't know what to do and you're doing the wrong things. Because nobody else who is a healthy person tries to control or tell people what to do all the time. It's just not healthy. And who wants to be with a robot who just does what everyone does, right? Or wants you to, in the perfect world, do everything they do and say and have no emotions. Healthy people don't want that. They want you. They want the real you. They want to hear your opinions and your thoughts and hear your reflections on your experiences and what you've been through. And they don't want to just hear their own and tell you them all the time. So I'm so sorry you had some shitty ass people who put this horrible programming in you that you are not able to trust yourself because you'll never do the right thing and all this bullshit, because you can. And the huge wounding, I can just feel like you've done this for decades and decades. I don't know if you've ever not done this. So it's going to take a lot of conscious work to break this, but you can. You absolutely can. You just have to realize first, you know what they say, first step is denial, is that you aren't dumb, you aren't worthless, you aren't unable to make good decisions yourself for yourself. You don't need anyone else to tell you what to do. You have the answers within yourself, and you need to throw out that garbage that people told you about yourself, because it's garbage. You're not garbage. What they told you you could and couldn't do is garbage. I'm going to make that very clear. So I feel like the patterning is that you would find people who are controlling or had very controlling abusive patterns because that's just what you knew, and those are the only people who are going to tell you what to do, how to do it, and step by step, and completely take away your own authority for yourself. Everyone else, they don't want that. They don't want that responsibility. They can't make the right call for you, and they know it, and they're like, I don't want to be put in this position. So yeah, that's how you'll know healthy people from not healthy people. If they actually try to tell you all the time what to do or not do, because ultimately only you know. Only you know. So I'm going to move on to the guidance cards on what you could bring more of in your life to help with this. And once again, you just throw it in the garbage can if you don't think it's right for you. But don't throw in the garbage can because it's the opposite of what someone has told you your value is. So, Joan of Arc, let's talk about this. The warrior of light. I have a steel-like faith in myself. The angels armor me with conviction. So, this card has come up a few times on this channel. This talks so much about defying what everyone around you perceives you capable of, and going beyond and above anyone else's limits. So even beyond your own perceived limits. So this is all about gaining confidence in your ability to make decisions for yourself, to be able to make decisions for what you want to do and be in the world, and not waiting on anyone to tell you their opinion about what they think you can or can't do, or telling you what you should or shouldn't do, or who you should be, or what you should do for work. This is all you. It says, I have steel-like faith in myself. I know what I want to do, and I know what I am capable of, and I am stronger than I think I am, and I can handle this. Queen of the wilderness, the language of the natural world is a frequency of love. This is my mother tongue. So this is talking about calling in more love. We were already kind of talking about this. There's almost like you have this like a programming within yourself where you can be very abusive to yourself in your language. And you're just repeating and mirroring and circulating words that were told to you your whole life. I'm dumb. I don't know how to do things. I can never do things the right way. If I make a choice, I might make the wrong choice. I often do the wrong thing. All these things about not doing right things, but there's no wrong or right decision. That's the irony. There's no wrong or right decision. So this is talking about connecting in with your root and your earth star chakra, and connection to the world around you. Connecting there. There is love there. If you've been feeling isolated from the world, isolated from connection with others, the universe you can connect with. And what do I mean by that? Like there's a frequency that all things have that connects us in together. Like bees buzzing together, birds chirping. We all have our own unique frequency that connects us all to everything in our environment. And this is saying tap into that. Feel the connection there. When you feel that connection, you will feel the love of all the things around you, and you will feel like you're in a place where you belong. Fatima, the mother of imams. Love is my lineage and gratitude is my religion. So once again, it's talking about calling in more love and gratitude. So it's almost like if you're like, I don't want to toxic positivity. I feel like you hear that all the time. But if you're only thinking about all the shit that you don't like all the time, and how more of this stuff is happening, and how yesterday this and that negative thing happened, and all this bad stuff, it's saying like, sometimes you're just stuck in only seeing the bad, and you need to shift your mind and rewire your mind to seeing the good and the love and the light. And maybe at first there isn't much. Maybe you only start with seeing one thing a day, but then maybe by the end of the week you can see 2 things a day. As small as steps as it is, they're saying this kind of stuff changes the wiring of your brain and what you're looking for. I feel like for this pile, because of how people have treated you, you're always looking for what you have done wrong in the past. What has not been good? What will someone not like about what happened? And how can you take measures to correct what they might not have liked you've done or did or saw or whatever? So you have to see, you kind of got wired to see all the possible negative things. And now you're going to try to correct that, because all this was to make a situation less challenging with a friendship or a partnership. And it's just saying like, that is like coping mechanism for abuse victims. And to get out of that, you need to start changing your way you were programmed to survive, because you're not wanting to survive anymore. You're wanting to thrive. I'm sure you've heard stuff like this all the time, but it does start with small things like rewiring what your brain is looking for and focusing on in its environment. You want to start looking at good, not all the potential threats in all environments, because you're not in that environment anymore. Hoping that makes sense. Bridget, the goddess of internal flame. I am the internal flame, and each day my light grows brighter. I like this because in this card itself, it's saying, I am the center of my own universe. I am the one who controls what happens, and the more empowered and confident and brave I get, each day gets better and better. That's kind of my perception of that. I am an internal flame, and each day my light grows brighter. So even just see, like, you know, like if you're saying, like a little candle starts, and then you keep putting more wood on the fire, and then eventually that confidence, that ability to trust yourself will grow bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where you don't even understand how you ever used to doubt yourself, how you ever used to question yourself, or question things you saw, or things you believed, or opinions you had, or things you wanted to do. It's just a process of growing and growing and changing these old ways. Saraswati, the goddess of self-knowledge, the essence of who I am flows effortlessly into everything I create. So, self-knowledge, that's quite key. It's really learning who you are and rediscovering it. And I feel like for this pile, a lot of you might be in your 40s or 50s. And I feel like this is why I feel like quite a resistance here, where it's like, it just says you've been surviving this way for so long. There's such a resistance. Like, I almost feel like the gears are like locked into place, and it's like I'm saying put some oil on there and try to start turning them, and you're like, what? No. I don't know where to start. I've never had to do this. I am overwhelmed, and like, isn't it easier to just keep doing what I know how to do and what I've been doing? And I'm saying you can, but if you want to break free of this codependency, of these cycles, of these toxic relationships, of the fear, of the chaos, of the drama, of the feeling controlled, then we need to start oiling those gears so that they can start to shift. And at first, you know, it might take a lot of effort to get them moving, but once they catch, I don't think you're going to be able to stop them. I think they're just going to really catch on to things and pick up speed. And apparently Toby agrees. So I want to read the Saraswati card, because it was the card that you all chose for this pile. And I also just want to say, like, if you're really like, I don't know where to start with this, but I do want change, this is where it might be worth finding someone. Okay. I also just want to say for this pile that you might want to look at getting a coach to help you with this, because I feel like you're needing someone who's going to help you move to the next step. And if you've been stuck in this for years and years and decades, it is going to be hard. And there's going to be areas where it will move a lot faster if someone's there to support you, hold space for you, and teach you how to be empowered and how to make your own decisions for yourself and how to feel into your body. So you're really going to try to find reviews, comments, or ratings for this person before you see them that talks about empowerment, because there is some people in this job field where they can like feeling empowered and be put in these positions, and just because of your tendency to be attracted to people who will give you the answer, you're going to try to break cycle, do something different, and find someone who's going to empower change. So do you see the importance there? Really making sure that you get some sort of confirmation or reviews on them helping people learn how to understand themselves and hold space for themselves, connect into themselves, or feel empowered. Okay, so just remember, if you want change, you're gonna have to get a little uncomfortable, but then it's always worth it to get out of cycles of fear, of feeling unlovable, of feeling gross, of not feeling like yourself. You can't really get much worse than that. So anyways, Saraswati, as it says here, when we are aligned with the essence of who we are, then what needs to be communicated through us, whether with words or music or artwork, can flow. When our creativity feels blocked or stagnant, it isn't because the waters have dried up. We might fear this, but the truth is that self-awareness is the key to unlocking our creative flow. When we take the time to return to the essence of who really we are and nurture that essence, realign again with the river of expression that the soul generates. Saraswati is a reminder that anything we create that purifies us in the process of making it is a blessing. Our art should be judged not on popularity, but on its power to transform us. Saraswati is a call to return to the essence of our true self. The energy of her card is a charge for more self-knowledge, more awareness of our own unique soul and what our needs are in this moment. She leads us back into that finely attuned space where we can express with ease and grace what the soul desires most to share, and that energy feels like a river moving through us. It heals, it liberates, and it inspires others to return to their own essence as well. Intention, the essence of who I am, flows effortlessly into everything I create. Soul voice meditation, what is one word to describe the essence of my true self? And maybe you can take it as a little message here is, what does your inner child want, and where have you been ignoring them, and how have you been ignoring them? Like my cat Toby here, who's just running around yelling, and I'm not paying attention to him because I want to finish this card reading. Where are you doing that to yourself? Where are you just ignoring it because of habit or convenience? And it might fight you at first or seem scary, but in the end, it will feel better once you listen to it. Okay, let's end this with a little bit of a sound clearing, because I feel like this was a little much, a little heavy for this pile. And I feel like every time I've come across this type of energy, that I really have a hard time kind of explaining how you can empower yourself, or why when you ask for people's opinions or ask for people's feedback, it's taking away your own power. Because I feel like it's one of those things where I'm trying to explain to you why it doesn't work when you've not been able to ever experience the other side of it. So it's like, why is what I'm doing wrong? It's giving more information. It's more insightful. It's like, it doesn't really make sense to this pile usually, because it's what they've always done and always have experienced. But when you're someone who's on the other side of it, you're just like, I guess you just have that insight of why it isn't helpful, why it doesn't actually help, and how it does actually undermine your own authority, inner authority. Okay, anyways, that's me trying to explain it. I don't know if I still was able to. Hello, pile 2. So you chose the Enheduanna, High Priestess. I am one with my soul, and my soul is a legacy of love. Sorry about the pronunciation of her name. All right. We also have the claw. Oh, I'm so bad at saying all these names. Sometimes I wonder if I should use this deck just because of that. The Claw. Theoclaw? Theoclaw. Maybe that's it. The prophetess of true power. I call my power back from all times and all places. I am my own. We have Akhilanda. Akhilanda. There we go. The goddess of never not broken. Everything happens for my liberation. I choose to become only more love. Interesting. I feel like these two cards came out in last week's Pick Your Card reading, but I don't totally remember. Okay. Enheduanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth. Okay, definitely these cards came out in last week's reading. So it would be interesting to see if you all have just chosen this pile and also watched the pile where these came out in the last week's reading. This one says, Kali, the mother of the universe. I release all that doesn't serve me. It's time to be truth of who I am. Trying to be the truth of who I am. Interesting. So 2 cards really talking about calling back your power. And this is around clarity on how to kind of stop going into these cycles or calling in this toxic pattern or whatever it is, this thing that you're not liking. So big theme is about personal power and not giving your power away. And especially with I am one with my soul, and yeah, I have nothing to hide. Very interesting. Okay, so anyways, the archetype cards here, we have Samaritan, we have Child Eternal, we have the Martyr, we have Guide, we have Dilettante, and then we have quite a few emotional things coming up here. So these cards were, let's see, I can't quite remember what I'd said for them. I think these were like emotional signs that you were starting to go back into a pattern or toxic cycle. And it says surrender to what is. It says surrender to effortlessness, surrender low esteem, surrender worry, surrender to the beauty of the natural world, surrender resentment, and surrender to trust. Okay. Maybe I'll put the 2s together in the surrender froms. There we go. Surrender to, surrender to trust. There we go. A lot of calling in and surrendering more into a certain thing. Okay, that's good for guidance. Okay, pile 2. So this is a little different than I had intended, but maybe the more I talk, the more it will all make sense. So what I'm seeing is going on here is talking about going down kind of cycles, and I didn't really know this could go in cycles of feeling like imposter syndrome is what I'm getting. So it's almost like I see you in the light attribute of starting to say whatever it is you're doing for work, you're getting into it, you're doing it, you're having a great time, you start charging money for it, start to charge more for it or closer to your value of what people should be paying for it. And then I feel like then the joy kind of turns into this like, do I deserve this? Am I good enough? Am I really that qualified or trained? Like I don't feel like ready. I don't feel like I have the right certification or enough knowledge around this, and it just kind of like starts from like this place of like I'm doing this for joy and fun, and then it kind of turns into like avoiding people or trying like almost not wanting clients, or I think we would call them clients because you're like you feel like you're not deserving or good enough at what you're doing. And you feel like you really feel like you're faking it or something like that, or you like it's so interesting. So it's almost like a bit of a self-sabotaging cycle. And so I can see your confusion about being like, how do I get out of this? Like I like what I'm doing, but then once I get paid for it or start to get paid for it, I feel like I'm like charging for something I'm not actually a professional in. So Interesting. So I'm just going to give you the information I see coming forward, and then we'll try to dissect it a little bit together. So it says the emotions that start to come through when this transition happens from kind of joy and excitement into, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I'm qualified. I don't know if I'm giving accurate advice or good at whatever it is. Maybe it's a good massage or a good physical work or whatever. It's saying you start to fall into feeling and experiencing low self-esteem. So you start to feel like you don't deserve success, love, or abundance. That's what starts to happen internally. I think it kind of comes up in the inner child. And then it says you start experiencing worry, which obviously all this stuff is seeming pretty obvious, but it's coming through, so I'm just going to share it. So it says you start to fall into anxiety in an anxiety-driven life. Here it says that you start to disconnect from your heart and you start to connect too much to the mind and the worst and best case scenarios, and sort of thinking and thinking and thinking, overthinking, and then kind of creating more and more worry and fear and questioning your value. And then resentments only poisons you. Try to forgive others for their shortcomings and keep moving forward. Okay, so interesting enough, I think this is actually talking about sometimes getting not the greatest feedback. And I don't know if you're even getting negative feedback or if you're just not getting a lot of feedback. So say if you're like, well, how did you like it? And someone's like, oh yeah, it was okay. And I feel like that's like where you're like, oh, I'm not that good. I didn't meet their expectations. They said they were expecting something different. I feel like it's like those kind of comments that start to also drive the worry. And then also it says the what if stuff can happen too. So you're like, what if I had done something differently? Maybe they would have liked me more, would have appreciated my services more. And then it's kind of saying like, that's just a dangerous black hole to go down into, as I'm sure you know, because I actually don't get that you're doing anything that they're dissatisfied with. They're just not realizing that you're needing more validation. So if they're a customer or a client, they like, if you think about their perspective as they're going in, they're not realizing that you are still kind of growing your confidence in yourself, or really wanting to hear feedback on how much of a difference it's making in people's lives, or if it is making a difference, your service. They just don't realize that. So they don't realize that you essentially need comfort and validation. And I don't want that to sound bad. They're just not, it's not in their awareness. They assume because you're operating, you have your own business, or you're working and serving this thing, that you already know that your thing's great and you don't need any more affirmations around its benefits or how much they enjoyed it. So you really feel like that's what's going on. It says surrender to the beauty of the natural world. So here it's talking about some guidance on when you start to notice this coming up, this worry, this starting to question your value, starting to fall into low self-esteem, starting to fall into not feeling like you're deserving of success, love, and abundance. It says, come back to your breathing. That's a really big thing. And then this one over here, worry and anxiety, was talking about checking your breath for if you're not breathing, you're just also going to put your physical body also in stress. So here it says, taking a relaxing break and spend time in nature, replenish yourself by feeling the beauty and the ecstasy here. So I really feel like this is having chill time where you're not taking a mental load on around this work. Okay, sorry guys. There's a double whammy there. My memory card got full and my battery died at the same time. So yes, where was I? Okay, we were talking about what to surrender into. Breath work is what we were talking about, I believe, and that bring awareness to breathing, helping you calm down. And it's not just that it helps your body physically calm down and takes your mind out of stress, but it also is going to put you into your body and be like, what is actually going on? Because usually if imposter syndrome is coming up, there is some limiting belief or some old program or some subconscious thing happening. It could be in the inner child, I think, because it does talk about child here. And belief system too. Like when I see the martyr, it usually tells me that there's some belief around receiving or being able to receive compensation or success for your work if you're wanting to do it to be of service to people. There's just something going on in that programming there. So when you connect in with your body and you're going into it, you're going to actually be able to ask yourself, like, what is going on within me? Why am I worried right now? What am I scared of? Where do I fear I'm not bringing enough value? Why do I fear that? Where did that come from? Any of those kinds of questions. It's really going to put you in a clearer mindset to realize this isn't actually me. There's something going on in the subconscious or in my inner child. And I've got to go investigate so I can release this emotion from coming up once I have clarity about why it's even coming up to begin with. So, surrender to effortlessness. Stop pushing so hard. The art of living means going with the flow instead of trying to force the river. I really like this. So, it's almost like if something isn't working in one direction, then let it go and go in a different one. So, if there's a specific client that just isn't getting back to you, you're probably not aligned with each other right now. Doesn't mean forever. Just move on to the next thing and stop exerting so much energy on trying to communicate and work through blocks that aren't happening. You've got a great product. You're a great person. You have a great service. This one person isn't gonna be the make it or break it thing. There's something better. Surrender to trust. Trust yourself and your decisions. Don't be swayed by other people's strong opinions about what to do. Take action and be confident that you have chosen the right path. So I really like this. I see this coming forward when someone is kind of like, yeah, I liked what you did, but have you ever considered and some other option? And sometimes that can be good. And other times you're like, that would literally make me go broke. Like that is not sustainable. That just wouldn't work. I can't do it that way. It's not feasible. And trusting that and just knowing that everyone's going to have their own opinions, but they don't run that business for a reason. And if they did, they'd probably understand why it doesn't work. So I feel like just trusting yourself and knowing you're doing your best and you're staying true to yourself and you're doing what aligns with you. So you're proud of your services and what you're offering. Surrender to what is. We kind of talked about this one a little bit. Flow with what is instead of fighting it. When you can't change a situation, compassionately accepting it exactly as it is will bring you peace. So this is really talking about, once again, I feel like there's like maybe some clients that you just, maybe they wouldn't stop writing you a bad review or something. And they're just like, well, I believe you should offer this. And I feel like you've maybe been at battle with them or battle with something. And it's just saying, you know what? Some people you just aren't going to be for them. And now you know for future that instead of trying to like bend backwards to work for them or to help them out, just let those people fall away because they're not really aligned with you anyways. And they take a lot more energy and time than they're worth for you, than they deserve of you. Maybe that's a better word to say. So I know this one's going by kind of fast, but I do want to talk about the goddess cards here. Hang on a second. Let's just, I guess I kind of put these away in a funny way. Okay, so let's talk about these ladies. They're all ladies. So I am with my soul, and my soul is a legacy of love. So I actually even like this, looking more into what's coming through here around talking about trusting that you are offering your best and that you are doing your best and that you're being of service to others. I think that's the big worry, is that whatever you're offering isn't actually helping people or isn't actually benefiting them. But I feel like here is saying, yes, it is. And trusting and knowing in that. I feel like that's one of those easier said than done things. We will read this card because you did choose her, so I do want to read the little blurb about her for you at the end. Over here we have the Queen of Heaven and Earth. I have nothing to hide. I see and accept all that I am. I like this as well, for it's almost like, I feel like these cards go very well together. They have similar like things going on behind the head. So I feel like they're connected to the same sort of thoughts. So I'm one with my soul and I have nothing to hide. I really feel like that's like acknowledging the fears, your shadow, your like whatever's going on in your inner child, in your body that's saying, what if I'm not doing good enough? What if I'm scared? Like acknowledging that fear and looking at it and then realizing that there's this, I don't know, it's almost like they're saying like checking in with yourself and checking that you're still offering the service you want to offer. A lot, like whatever it is. So say if you really wanted to just give a service that made people's lives earlier, just checking with yourself and saying, am I still offering that service? Am I still aligned with my morals and values? Yes. I have nothing to fear right now. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at, is like if the inner child's coming up about what if this isn't even doing anything, it's like, well, check in with yourself and go, okay, well, are we making, yeah, like are all my core values still in place? I think probably is enough said there. Woo. Sorry, my cats are getting really rowdy. It's weird. I was playing with them for about an hour today. And usually that kind of tires them out so I can do this card reading. But I guess now they're bored again. I don't know. So the mother of the universe, erase all that doesn't serve me. It's time to be truth of who I am. It's time to be the truth of who I am. I feel like this is just, it's so interesting because I'm like, that's kind of a complex thing to do. But it's almost like releasing or realizing that doubting yourself doesn't serve you. I almost feel like part of you is like, well, if I don't doubt myself, how will I know for sure that I'm being a good person or something? And here it's saying, I don't need to question myself because I know that I'm a good person. I know that I want to bring more light into the world, and I don't need to keep doubting if I am doing that or not. The goddess of never not broken. Everything happens for my liberation. I choose to become only more love. So I really like this as a confirmation that anything that happens, you'll get through it and it will only help you grow. And will, like, if there's a mistake or a unfortunate event that happens, it just feel like it's going to make you prepared for a similar event in the future. It will make you change the way you're doing something to not re-experience whatever that situation is that has occurred. And then lastly, we have the prophet of true power. I call my power back from all times and all places. I am my own. I really like this because I was saying, like, it just feels like even another, if you've ever like been suspicious of in other lifetimes not being very powerful in yourself or not being confident in yourself, when you say, I call back my power from all timelines and places, it really just says like, all of me now, I call back in this moment. Any power I've given away, anything that I've given too much to other people, I call that back now. And it just feels to me like understanding your value and your worth and being like, I will not do this again to myself. Feels very self-honoring. So anyways, let's read this card for you. This Enheduanna card. Pardon the explain or the name again. Yeah, and then if you care about the number, it's 206 that I'm looking at. It's apparently taking me a little bit to find that. It's towards the end. There we go. So let's see. It says, if your soul selected her card, over 4,000 years ago, the high priestess Enheduanna wrote in the exaltation of Inanna. So sorry. Most precious lady, beloved by Anne, your holy heart is great. And in the Sumerian temple hymns, whatever enters you is equally whatever leaves endures. She is the limitless love and the inexhaustible power that moves through us when we merge with the soul. We each have a personal myth. We each have an Ishta Deva, a personal deity who inspires and compels us to bring heaven right here on earth by moving us with the fierce conviction that we're divinely led. Enheduanna encourages us to integrate our light and our dark to bring our unconscious aspects of self into consciousness. And the High Priestess is often described as the guardian of the unconscious. She is that aspect in all of us that holds the veil of awareness that separates us from our inner depths. Enheduanna is about merging the awareness of our souls and all the love and power it gives us with our individual personality or ego. What Swiss psychologist Carl Jung would call personality 1 and personality 2. Enheduanna wants you to live and breathe your soul. She wants you to become so intimate with it that there is no longer any separation, and there are no more excuses or apologies for how powerful you are. You are the High Priestess. You are this internal, she whispers, you are this external. Oh, sorry. Ruined the vibe here. Mispronunciation. You are this external, she whispers, your holy heart is this legendary. What it says, what allows me to experience the reality of my soul. Anyways, that was kind of rambly with a lot of like name thrones out there, but its main thing is saying that if you can become so connected with all of yourself, you will really, hang on, what is it? You'll become so intimate with that there's no longer any separation. There are no more excuses or apologies for how powerful you are. Basically, you find your truest power when you accept all of yourself. I think that's probably just the easiest way to say all that. I also like gibbered through there, so sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know if this is really what you're anticipating from this pile. Sometimes I feel like that for some pick of cards where I'm like, I feel like this took a turn of events that you and I both didn't expect to happen. But I do think it is a really good point in giving you some strategies on what to do once you start to doubt yourself and start to identify with this imposter syndrome. And I know sometimes we're like, what? That's it? That's all we have to do? Like, I just need to work on my breath, connect in with my body, connect in with what my fears are, and just ask what it needs from me, and then say, oh, like, yes, I am still standing strong in my morals and values, and I am still staying in my integrity. I feel better now. Like, I feel like it. You know what? You don't know until you try, I guess. That's what it's saying. Could help for you. So, as always, these are always just suggestions, and you just take what resonates and just do what you want to do, because it's your life ultimately, and you can choose how it goes down. So, anyways, you all have a wonderful day. Good luck, and I think that's all I got for you. Hello, Pile 3. So you chose the first woman, Lilith. And let's see your other cards. You have Sappho, the poetess. I love every inch of my body. We have Freya, the goddess of discernment. We have Our Lady of Guadalupe, the empress of protection. And we have Sekhmet, the red lady. I honor my anger by giving to it. Interesting cards here. Okay, and then the emotions that might serve as sort of a warning to you about when you're entering into this pattern or this toxic behavior to you, or I shouldn't even say toxic, it's just a thing that you're not wanting to do anymore. It's no longer serving you. Surrender to your will, your full power. Okay, you know what? Let's go like this. surrender stress, surrender your ego, and then surrender to your full power, surrender to your intuition, surrender to the wisdom of your body, and surrender to miracles. So you have two cards basically talking about the same thing here with your intuition and the wisdom of your body, listening to it more when under stress and when you're experiencing self-doubt. Very interesting. And trusting that judgment. Whenever I see full power, to me it's like seeing all of yourself, listening to all of yourself, listening to the wisdom of your body, as it says, to bring you back into a state of empowerment instead of a state of disempowerment. And then we have the archetypes. Okay, it kind of makes sense. We have the shapeshifter, which to me usually means transforming out of certain states into another. We have Don Juan, and we have Messiah, and we have Child Wounded, and we have the Virgin. Okay. Interesting. Might just take a second to see what's going on with these cards here. Okay, so what's throwing me for a loop for this pile, and I should say all these piles have thrown me for a few loops today. It could just be because I'm a little bit tired, and honestly that does impact readings, unfortunately, but I needed to get this done so that I could post it, so it's my own fault. Yeah, don't feel bad for me. I did it to myself. So anyways, I lost track of thought. Okay, regroup here. Okay, so I'm not totally sure. Like I said, I'm a little confused by all these readings because I feel like they're not very specific and they're all very confusing. Sometimes it does just happen because the energy of the person I'm reading is confused, and then I get caught up in that energy. So sometimes if I just name it, it will go away, and let's hope that that happens. So I feel like one of the reasons why this pile was drawn to choosing Lilith, the first woman, I always think of sexual energy, sexual play, the desire to be more sexual when I see this. Also saying that I am one with my body and soul are the same. And then you have another card saying that I love every inch of my body. And then here I'm seeing the Virgin, Wounded Child, and Don Juan. And I keep wondering if there is sexual, I don't know if I'd say sexual trauma, or there is just an injury to, I want to say, the feminine in this pile. I'm like, trying to go deeper. Is it masculine? Is it feminine? I don't know. You know what? It could be. Tough to say. I do feel like the dominant energy is saying feminine. You guys are like, what are you even saying? I'm arguing with myself about what I'm meaning. That's what's going on right now. Yeah, I do think this is a feminine injury or wound. Sorry if you don't fit into that category. It's just, even with, as soon as I see Lilith, every time I see it come through in this deck, to me, it carries such a strong stigma behind it. It comes, like, when I see her, I see like two things. I see her wounding, her misjudgment, her being disempowered, being told that she needs to reject part of herself, part of her desire, part of her femininity, give up part of her power. And then I see her for who she really is, a strong, beautiful woman who was brave, who was confident in herself and decided she was gonna make her own decisions. So I see this conflicting energy of feeling shameful for being a physical form of a female, for having desire, for having dreams and cravings. And I feel like for this pile, it's deeply associated with the physical form, having a female body. And sexual desires. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. That just is what I'm getting. So that's why I'm a little bit confused about this, because we're talking about red flags and patterns or cycles. And I wonder, though, if this pile has a habit of feeling confident, feeling good in their body, and then say you're like exploring getting into a sexual relationship or sexual partnership, and you do good at the start, you have all like the urges and the excitement, and then I wonder if once you get into it, this old wounding comes up. So I don't really know the guidance coming through how this fits with what I had planned, so I'm kind of winging it right now. But what I see here is, so it's here, says spotlights your positive seductive qualities. Like, I feel like you like the romance. I feel like you have no problem feeling desire. It's actually letting yourself experience it that is the block that I'm seeing. So when I see this says maintaining symbolic purity and fear of intimate union, this feels specifically about the physical body. There's some shame here about your physical body and your desires. And I feel like it's almost like you're embarrassed, or you know what? I take it back. I think the first layer might seem like embarrassment, but if we go deeper and we look under that, we're like, there's a fear of vulnerability, of being vulnerable, that this is something you really want or you really desire or that you would really enjoy. Something happened here. The wounded child made you feel shameful or like it wasn't safe to be that vulnerable. If you think about it, being in an intimate state and physically naked and being like, this is what I actually truly desire and truly would want to feel satisfied, that is pretty vulnerable. And I don't know, I guess the worst thing they can say is no, but it's almost like there's such a fear of that level of rejection that you can't even bring yourself to say it, I think. I don't know. You tell me, because I feel like I'm really confused about exactly what's going on. So Messiah, serving humanity with humility. When I read this card, it made me think like, this is so weird. This is talking so much about sexual relations. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I feel like it's the only hit I'm getting off of this pile though. Okay, obviously feeling a little weird about it. I'm rambling now. So, anyways, when I saw this Messiah, I feel like this is like someone who wants to be, what is that right word? Very accommodating. That's the word I was looking for. Very accommodating. I feel like you go above and beyond to make sure other people's desires and needs are met. And then it just isn't making it back to you. So why, how can you get yourself out of this? This is where I'm getting tricky. It's getting tricky because there's more than this happening. I wonder if this is also talking about just like people pleasing in general in intimate relationships and not really being sure when that starts. And maybe the issue is that it doesn't always happen. You're not always in the cycle. Sometimes you're really like strong in who you are, and then other times like this other side comes up and you're almost wondering, what happens? When do I like switch into this role of like stopping asking what I want and not getting my needs met, and then just start accommodating and kind of like disattaching from what my own needs are? I don't know, I keep getting that. Okay, so I'm like tuning in, sorry. This is what the pause is. So I'm seeing, it's saying that the emotions that start to come through is stress and your ego. So here it says, be of service to others and come from your heart. A big ego can work against you, but humility will further your goals. This doesn't feel quite right. I think the issue is you're trying to be of service to everyone but yourself sometimes. So that's why it's really interesting when I see the words of those cards, because I'm like, maybe it's almost saying like, I don't know, every time I think of this ego, I keep thinking of insecurities, feeling vulnerable, feeling doubtful, feeling not safe, and then surrendering stress. worrying about it, overthinking it, literally getting stressed out about something. That starts to come up, feeling not powerful in yourself, not listening to your intuition or the wisdom of your body, and kind of going all into the mind and the fear and the doubt, and kind of forgetting to check in with your physical form, because that seems to be like something that's going on here. And then the surrendered miracle cards, I'm actually really drawn to the fact that there's two dolphins here. Because I feel like this is just reaffirming that there is possibility for deep union. And also dolphins like to have sex for fun. I keep thinking that too. Yeah, okay. Maybe I need to take a time out here because I am seriously still confused about this card reading and what exactly is being triggered. Maybe this is making sense to you, but I feel like I'm just getting little tidbits that I've said, and I'm like, I actually am not seeing the bigger picture or the bigger story, and I'm very confused. I don't know. The other thing I'm picking up on too is I'm very drawn to the fact that there's two crown chakra cards and two sacral cards, and I'm almost feeling like when you're feeling blocked in whatever this is, because I feel like I'm still not totally sure if I'm even saying it right, if I'm even on to what is blocking you. It's saying instead of going into the ego, into the mind, and like going to the ifs, the what ifs, the what you know, just logical thinking, just that jibber jabber of the mind. I see this saying like going into your body and asking like, I don't know, like I keep wanting to say inspired ideas, like the ideas that have come to you about things maybe you would like to try, or things, the possibilities that you'd maybe like to see. And then the orange, when it's like all about coming to your full power and not being scared or intimidated of that power, of that desire, of what is capable of being expressed within yourself. So I really do feel like this is like still talking about exploring your sexual side. So I don't know. I'm like really got no clue why this is coming up. It is interesting. So if we're looking at like the guidance cards that came through, it's saying like I'm safe and divinely protected. I am held in love at all times. So this is, to me, this is really encouraging. Like they're like the nervousness around being fully in like your sexual power or your sexual creativity, or just fully being fully embodied in yourself. It's saying like you are safe, you are protected, you are loved at all times. And it's saying also, let's see here, and I also like that it's saying that it's up to you to only say yes when it's a holy hell yes. So it's so funny. I almost wonder if this is talking about too, where say if you are overcoming some sexual trauma or some sexual wound in your relationship, your romantic relationship, and sometimes you don't feel like engaging in a sexual act, that it's literally saying only say yes when it's a holy hell yes. Like, yes, I want this. Yes, I am feeling like I can even get to the point of wanting it. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just aren't in the mood, but you could use some convincing. And other times you're like, I don't want to be convinced. It's just a no. I wonder if this is coming up. I think it maybe that might just have maybe clicked. Maybe I wonder if you are finding yourself trying to overcome this wounding or this trauma, and you kind of get pushed back there when you try to be accommodating to your partners, your sexual partners, because I almost wonder if you're like feeling like you owe them this, or like you don't want to make a big deal about it or a big scene, so you're almost just like tolerating, or what's the word I'm looking for here, allowing them to, and then it's actually just further causing this wound to come forward. Like you're not feeling safe, you're starting to feel unsafe around them, because you're trying to essentially make as little drama or big deal about it, but it actually is just furthering the wound. So yes, so I feel like that's a really big advice when it says discernment, when knowing when you feel like being convinced, or when you feel like you don't want to be convinced and you're not going to change your mind and it's just not a good time and will cause further harm to yourself and further harm to the relationship and a loss of trust, essentially. And then the red lady, I am pure strength. I honor my anger by giving voice to it. That is really interesting. I can't help but see that it's such like, there's all in the red. And I feel like it's talking about being okay to be mad about what has happened to you, that it is frustrating, that you don't like how it's affected your future relationships in this current partnership or sexual partnership, and that it's okay to just be mad about it. It's okay to hold space to be mad about it. And you don't need to feel guilty about that, or I don't know how to put it. I almost even see it saying like allowing your anger does bring you more power. And I don't want to be careful with that, because I know how sometimes like if you're very like angry about something, it can be a false sense of strength. But I think for you, it's actually allowing yourself to be angry takes you out of that feeling stuck in the victim role and back in your empowered self. Like I don't know quite if I'm saying that right. Let's read this card from the guidebook. I feel like I'm just totally making a mess of this pile. I'm so sorry. So it says, when your soul selects this card, holy rage, sacred anger, and positive aggression. These states of being are crucial aspects of the divine feminine. It's the female power that ends wars, that brings home missing children, that seeks justice for the earth and for those who can't defend themselves. The brilliant artist and mystic William Blake relates that the voice of honest indignation is the voice of God. The feminine has for too long been disassociated from rage and anger. If we can't embody the fierce emotion of anger, it often festers or expresses itself in subversive, manipulative ways, where it leaves us anxious and frustrated. Positive aggression, acting with love on behalf of what breaks our heart or enrages us, is what allows us to become agents of change to better our lives and the world around us. Sekhmet wants us to come face to face with our true strength. Power doesn't come from passive aggressive behaviors. We don't have to fear expressing our anger directly to an institution or a person who is acting unjustly. Sekhmet wants us to see that anger is an essential emotion. And Sekhmet is the sacred call to move that anger from pure emotion into conscious action. She wants us to act with conviction and from love. She wants us to create the healthy boundaries we need so we aren't injured again and again, or so that we can free ourselves from a destructive pattern. It's time to end. We have a divine right to draw a sacred circle around us at all times. The protection we invoke for ourselves and others helps us move us from feeling helpless to taking loving action. Soul voice meditation. Where can I create loving boundaries in my life? I am pure strength. I honor my anger by giving it a voice. So what I kind of got from that is saying, like, basically not allowing somewhat abusive cycles to continue, or dishonoring self-injuring cycles to continue, due to wanting to sort of be this ideal woman, this ideal female, wanting to be this ideal perfect version of a person that isn't actually serving you, and as it says, like, further wounds you, further causes havoc in your relationship. So I really feel like this is talking about sexual relationships, as I keep saying, and almost needing to set a boundary specifically with when you feel in your body that you're not feeling comfortable, you're not wanting to go there, and you're not wanting to be convinced or persuaded or lured into it. And I feel like you are in relationship with someone like someone specifically, and I feel like this is why it's coming up, is almost saying like voicing what you need and connecting into what you need and being honest will help break out of this pattern or this cycle. And it's interesting when it says what to do in these moments. It says surrender to your full power. Your life is calling for you to step into your full power rather than playing it small. So how I read this is like when you're feeling disempowered and you're starting to go into this fear place and you're starting to get nervous, step into that full power, your full authority to say, I'm not feeling this right now. I'm sorry, but I'm just not in a good headspace, and I don't want to be convinced. I don't want to feel obligated to do this right now. Or something around those lines. And you can even say, you know, I love you, but I'm not in a good place right now to do this and enjoy it. And I don't want this to put a stress on our relationship or some sort of thing like that. And I wonder if you have been honest about what you're struggling with here, with this feeling fully embodied, feeling fully in love with your own body and like it is your own. I wonder if you kind of feel like there's an energy of feeling a bit detached from your body itself, and like you're working through that. I think this is one of the layers you're working through, but I think what you're struggling with is, how to stop falling into the cycle of essentially accommodating your partner's sexual desires when it doesn't always align with you and you're not feeling it, and then cementing this wounding further and further, which makes it harder and harder for you to heal through it when it's still being wounded and implemented, like this wound is still happening. I hope that makes sense. That seems really tough. So surrender to the wisdom of the body. It says, listen to your body's message about a person or situation. If you feel physically drained or uncomfortable, be cautious. If you are energized and happy, move forward. So this is even a good way of saying, like, if you're feeling excited, if you're feeling like this is a yes for me, if you feel like it's a no, and then you continue to feel like it's a no, then you know that is your answer for that moment, that time. It's a no right now, and it's trust that. Trust that it is your body, and you're entitled to choose what happens to it. It says, tune into your inner voice. Be aware of any gut feelings, flashes, knowings, or aha moments that come through to guide you. I almost wonder if there's some connection that's going to happen here where you can see or give suggestions on some things that would help you feel less what's the right word? Less defensive or less guarded or less scared in these moments. I feel like this is going to take some communicating with yourself and then communicating with your partner so that you can be really clear about what it is that starts to make you feel unsafe or feel like you're shutting down. And to have those conversations afterwards, because I feel like in the moment, it's probably just a lot for you to just even be able to say no. So having the conversations afterwards is a really key point, because that's when you'll still have your voice and you won't be in that fear state or that stress state. Trying to see if there's anything else. You know what? I also did want to read this card that you chose, Lilith. I don't think I read her. So it says that if your soul selected her card, Lilith asks, what would happen if you left everything behind? She wonders what prevents you from getting to experience all that you desire. Is it you? Is it an idea of someone you have to be? Is it society's definition of what it means to be a woman? Lilith asks the question that sometimes never fully reached the light of consciousness. Lilith is unclaimed. She is the ruler of her body and soul. She reminds us that we are too, and not only that, we have a sacred obligation to be the body's fierce protector. If I were entirely equal to everyone else, to every man and every angel, what would I choose for my life? If I see myself as worthy as the first woman ever created by the divine, what more would I ask for? Am I living the life I desire? Am I actually fulfilled sexually in my current relationship? Are there aspects of my sexuality I haven't been able to face and voice? I think that's a really good key question to ask. Are there aspects of my sexuality I haven't been able to face and voice? Lilith refused to settle. She answered all these questions within her and took action on the truth she uncovered. Lilith demanded that she meet with what she really desired, and she's here to demand that we all do the same. So it says in meditation, ask yourself, what does the life I truly desire look like? And the affirmation is the same as on her card. I am the voice of my body and soul. I choose the life that I desire to live. So a lot of inner reflection and a lot of just honest communication with yourself. And I feel like through that, you'll get a lot of clear answers about what you're needing and what you're wanting. And then I think the hardest part will probably be being honest and having that conversation with this partner of yours to get out of this cycle, to get out of this pattern, and to have a more fulfilling relationship or sexual encounter or sexual experience. So yeah, I think this is kind of all I have to say for this pile. I would like to end it with clearing it with the quartz pyramid if you'd like to receive that. And my intention is just to help clear any of the heavy energies that might have come forward in all this, and just to release anything that's not serving you. Okay. All right, you have the best day, and I hope this helps. Sorry for the rambling at the start. I was having a little bit of a hard time really putting it together, and I guess my ego got in the way. So you guys just have the best day, and I wish you the best of luck.